Hey everybody, Extrasify here. Welcome back to another gold making video. And today's video is a little bit different. I did a tier list video in the past and you guys seemed to enjoy it. So I figured I'd do another tier list video for you. Now this tier list is going to be a little different obviously. And in today's video we are going to be discussing which expansions are best for transmog farming in particular. So I have every expansion at the bottom here, doing a tier list style. You've probably seen this before on YouTube. And I'd figure we'd just go through all of the best expansions and go through the worst expansions, you know, we'll cover everything. As far as when it comes to transmog farming. Obviously, if you've seen my channel, I am a huge lover of transmog farming, and that's how I've made my millions of gold in World of Warcraft. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the first one, which is good old vanilla. I mean, is it shocking that this is easily S tier to anyone else? You have so many good sets. You have the Jade, the Glorious, the Vanguard, Lofty. I mean, there's countless, literally countless dungeons that you can farm and make well over 100,000 gold an hour looted item value. You know, obviously the vanilla content, vanilla zones, vanilla dungeons, that's obviously going to be S tier. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Alright, coming up next we have the Burning Crusade. Now, do I want to put it on S or A? I think I'm going to put it at A. I'm going to put it at A tier. Now, with the Burning Crusade, obviously there are some really good transmog farms. You have like the Hellfire Ramparts, you have Mana Tombs, you have great dungeons like that that can give you a ton of gold and a bunch of great sets within those dungeons. But you have some places like endgame raids, so like Black Temple, Sunwell. You know, the transmog in there personally is just very, very cheap, not worth much at all. So it's hit or miss with Burning Crusade, just depends on what you farm, but there are a lot of great dungeons to farm for the Burning Crusade for a lot of good gold when it comes to transmog farming. Next on the list is Wrath of the Lich King. Now Wrath of the Lich King, to me personally, I love transmog farming when it comes to Wrath of the Lich King, but I know that obviously the sale rates are a bit lower, and that's just mainly because a lot of the green transmog sets are kind of similar style. Like a lot of them have the same appearances. There's not a ton of unique green transmog sets. Now obviously you do have great weapons from the Wrath of the Lich King expansion that can go for hundreds of thousands of gold, so that saves it a bit. But overall, I believe I'm going to put it in the B tier, just because when it comes to the green transmog sets, there's nothing really standout-ish. Like I said, the weapons when it comes to Wrath of the Lich King can be worth tens of thousands, if not more. So the weapons are pretty good, but you have the green transmog like armor sets, they're not worth a ton. There are some sets obviously that are the exception, but overall Wrath of the Lich King is pretty hit or miss. You know, you want to go for those big ticket weapons like bows, two-hand swords, axes, things like that. If you don't get those, you're kind of striking out. Not to mention the sale rate for transmog is a little bit lower in general when it comes to Wrath of the Lich King, so just pairing that all together, it's got to go to the B tier. Real quickly guys, if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel, a huge favor I ask of you is to like the video, make sure that you're subscribed, and go ahead and check out all my other gold banking content. I upload 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every single week. Have not missed an upload in several months. So make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my gold banking content as soon as it drops. On top of that, I do have a membership page on my channel if you want to support me financially. It's $4.99 a month and it is greatly appreciated by myself. Obviously, you do not have to do that, and I don't ask many of you guys to if you cannot afford it, but only if you choose to. I really appreciate it. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop back into the tier list. Alright, coming up next we have Cataclysm. Now, not a lot of people I know farm Cataclysm dungeons for transmog, but Cataclysm does have some decent weapons when it comes to unique and expensive mogs. But overall, Cataclysm is not hitting when it comes to Transmog. I'm gonna have to put it at the C tier. Surprisingly, there are worse, but like I said, Cataclysm does have some good weapons and a couple maybe decent Transmog sets that are worth a decent amount, but in general, it's kind of similar to Wrath of the Lich King, where a lot of the green Transmog armor sets share a lot of appearances with each other, and overall just not worth much gold, and there are far less weapon options when it comes to like versus Wrath of the Lich King with expensive weapons. They're few and far between when it comes to Cataclysm. No one is really farming Cataclysm dungeons for Transmog. Now the same thing can also be said about Mist of Pandaria. You know, it's the similar argument of not a lot of the armor sets have decent appearances that are unique and like rare, sought after, like the vanilla expansion, where you have these rare sets that look unique and are worth an absolute ton of gold. You don't really get that in a lot of these later expansions. So same thing with Mist of Pandaria. No one's really farming Mist of Pandaria dungeons. I actually am going to put it at D tier because there are actually quite a few less expensive items than even in Cataclysm. Cataclysm, at least you have some of the weapons that can be worth a decent amount. But Mist of Pandaria, there's really not much. Alright, moving on next, we have Warlords of Draenor. Now, you guys know I love Warlords of Draenor Transmog farms. It's just obvious. I mean, there are so many good sets. There are so many unique Transmog sets with Warlords of Draenor as well. I think they really improved how the Transmog system was going and was headed with, you know, things like Cataclysm, then Mist of Pandaria. It was just kind of getting worse. On top of the fact that there are some amazing world drop blues and epics that are unique, super cool looking, and can be worth hundreds of thousands of gold. Off the top of my head, you got obviously the Blackrock Bulwark. Amazing find there. I'm going to go ahead and, mainly just because of what we have remaining to rank, I'm going to throw Warlords of Draenor in at least the A tier. Do I want to put in the S tier? You know, I'm going to keep it in the A tier. I'll keep it in the A tier. I think Vanilla is untouchable at the S tier. I mean, it's obviously the best expansion to farm Transmog, but Warlords of Draenor is really solid too. Like I said, obviously a ton of unique appearances. There are a plethora of great expensive sets with Warlords of Draenor, and on top of the fact that I feel like people don't farm Warlords of Draenor as often as they should when it comes to Transmog farming. I think everyone just defaults to like farming vanilla dungeons, which is good and fine. You know, obviously that's a lot of gold income and value. But don't sleep on Warlords of Draenor. I mean, you've got Iron Docks, you've got Skyreach. There are a ton of great dungeons to farm, and as well as open world farms as well. You know, there are countless possibilities with Warlords of Draenor. So we have World of Warcraft Legion. You know, a lot of these low ranking tiers, it's the same problems where a lot of the greens have shared appearances. There aren't many unique appearances. And no one's farming Legion zones when it comes to farming for Transmog. You know, I'm gonna have to put it in the D tier. There's just no value when it comes to Legion farming. Do not farm Legion for Transmog. Wow, Battle for Azeroth. You know what? This would be, if I was just thinking out loud, I'd probably put it in the D tier, but you know what? I'm gonna actually put it in the C tier. I'm gonna say there are some redeeming qualities when it comes to Battle for Azeroth. There are some decent world drop items. You have that rare mace, the Glazer. That one is worth like a couple million gold if you are able to farm for it. You know, you have some other nice world drops if you're doing an open world farm for maybe one of the zone mounts. You know, you have some options when it comes to farming for Transmog, quote unquote, in Battle for Azeroth. But as far as like the green sets, you know, they're not going to be worth much. Your main items you're looking after here are the world drop epics. A lot of them do have unique, cool appearances and a pretty high value. So I'll say that that's a redeeming quality, and just for variety's sake, I'll put it in the C tier. Alright, next up we have Shadowlands expansion. Now, obviously, Nobody was really a big fan of Shadowlands, but overall, there are some decent transmog farming you can do with Shadowlands. Now, a lot of this will be open world farms and not ever really dungeons. And you know what? This may shock people, but I'm actually gonna put Shadowlands in the B tier. Now just hold on. Let me explain it real quick before you dislike the video and exit out thinking, you know, what is this guy talking about? Extra is losing his mind. Let me get into it. So first of all, there are a couple open world farms in Shadowlands, specifically in Zereth Mortis. A lot of the transmog greens there do have unique appearances, look really cool, and you can farm those for just the greens. But in particular, there is a world drop called the Varus Guillotine, and that sword is a epic drop, very sought after, worth a couple 100,000 gold at least, and everybody loves and talks about that sword. Now on top of that, obviously you have other great world drop epics worth tons of gold, but really Zereth Mortis kind of saves Shadowlands when it comes to transmog farms. Obviously it's only open world, so as far as the Shadowland dungeons, there's not really much to talk about there. But just because of the Varus Guillotine and all the green sets that come from Zereth Mortis, I'm going to put it in B tier for that sake. You know, the end of this tier list ranking, they don't have the strongest of swingers when it comes to expansions. So just for the tier list sake, I'll put it at B, but it could easily be C tier. But I think it is a little bit better than Cataclysm and Battle for Azeroth. Alright, and lastly on the list we have Dragonflight. Now if you're watching this in the future when the War Within dropped, obviously I'm making this before the War Within, so we don't know what to expect when it comes to transmog, so I'm not including it in this video. So let's go ahead and talk about Dragonflight. Now this probably is not going to be super surprising, but I'm going to go ahead and put it at the D tier. There's just nothing really to offer or to talk about when it comes to Dragonflight transmog farming. You know, one is that everyone's doing it now, so the greens that you would get are going to have more on the auction house than there ever will be probably. So obviously more competition, and the fact that a lot of the greens are just boring, they're bland. It's kind of like Legion where there's really nothing special. You know, there's not really any great world drop epics to look out for. It's just kind of the worst of the worst when it comes to transmog farming. And obviously that's okay, there are a ton of other ways to make gold in Dragonflight. So I wouldn't really worry about transmog farming in Dragonflight. You know, you can actually make a lot of gold just raw gold farming, doing world quests, things like that. So when it comes to just making gold per expansion, you know, Dragonflight's going to be kind of high because you can make a lot of gold just doing world quests, things like that. You can check out my raw gold making video where I talk about that. But yeah, obviously Dragonflight is pretty crappy when it comes to greens and, you know, blues and transmogs and things like that. So I don't believe this is too surprising to put it in the D tier. If you like this style of tier list content and you have a suggestion for another video, let me know in the comments below. I really do enjoy making these tier lists. It's very fun to kind of rank things and make like a different style of content, not just in World of Warcraft all the time. So let me know what you guys think of this video in the comments below. Alright guys, so that's my list. Let me know in the comments below how wrong I am or what you disagree with, or if you think my list is pretty solid. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching today's video guys. Good luck with your auction house sales, and I'll see you in the next gold making video.